You know what's more important than dealing damage? It's keeping your party alive, and that's exactly what the Paladin does. So let's talk Paladin in a nutshell. What's up guys, my name is Fox and I stream nearly every day at twitch.tv/hi_I'm_Fox, and if you have more questions, feel free to stop by. Let's talk Paladin. Do you enjoy being the backbone of your party? Being the hero in the shadows? Carrying the small-brained pure DPS players? In that case, Paladin is absolutely a class that should be on your list. What exactly does the Paladin do though? You're not a tank, nor are you a DPS. You are a support. So don't be fooled into thinking that you're going to be doing damage as a Paladin, cause trust me, you won't. Your job is to support your party and make sure that the greedy DPS can survive even the hardest hitting mechanics. But on top of that, you also got your team with juicy damage buffs across the board. As a support in Lost Ark, you offer something most classes simply don't, which is healing and shielding. For every 4 players in a party, it is expected to have one support to buff the 3 DPS that you are playing with. If you are more interested in knowing about the perks of a support, you should check out my Bard video, where I talk more in depth about this topic. Now, let's briefly talk about Holy Knight in general. As mentioned above, you are the backbone of your party, and your way to carry is by making your party immortal and pumping huge amount of numbers. You do not bring your own damage, to be honest, you are a bystander. But the game has a decent way of making you not feel that way with some powerful abilities the Paladin has in his kit. Now a question I get asked a lot is how do supports fare in solo instances and while leveling? Just to cover it quickly, yes, they are a bit slower in solo content, but not in a way that is horrible or that it feels impossible to solo any content. It's just a tad slower than most DPS classes. Anyway, let's now take a closer look at the Paladin. You might notice this fancy outfit I'm wearing and how my character has an uncanny resemblance to Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, which is why his name is Noctiski. Yeah, that literally didn't add anything informative to the video, but I sure felt like sharing the lore of my character. So, the whole idea behind the Paladin is that he uses some form of holy magic to help and support his party. Most abilities are very light themed and feel like they have a touch too holy to it. Now let's take a look at the identity gauge of the Paladin. It's actually pretty simple. You attack your target and you generate gauge that is visible in the middle of your HUD. Once it is absolutely full, you get to activate one of the 2 main identities the Paladin has. Let's quickly cover the blue icon. Your blue stance, as you might have already guessed it, empowers your blue attacks. By default, it increases their damage output and increases their size. This is your go-to if you are doing solo content to be in a form of power stance for a while. Now, moving on to what makes you a great support, the Blessed Aura. Once activated, it increases the damage of everyone in its radius by a solid 10%. Now what makes this so great is the class engravings to make both of them stronger. Since for the Paladin the engravings do not change his playstyle as with other classes, let's shortly go over them and why it makes the Blessed Aura so good. The most commonly ran engraving is the Healing Faith. Besides the 10% damage buff you're giving to your allies, you also decrease their damage taken by 10, 15 or 20%. And on top of that, you start healing everyone for 2% of their max HP every 2.5 seconds. This alone is absolutely amazing for group content and really pushed the Paladin into being a great support. Obviously, the other engraving you can choose from, the Master Fencer, makes it so that your blue skills fill up your gauge double as fast, do more damage, and your DPS stance lasts longer if you choose to go with that. It's not uncommon to run both engravings at the same time to increase the region of the Faith bar. To sum up, Blue skills are damage oriented and generate more gauge, while yellow skills are more utility focused. Before we go over the skills and more specific playstyles of the Paladin, I'd like to give you my personal opinion, especially comparing it to Bard. For those of you who have watched my Bard video might remember how I said that I feel like it's quite boring and that I feel insignificant or rather like a bystander. Sure, the same feeling is not completely gone when playing Paladin, but it's much less. To me, it feels like Paladin is much more fun, and knowing that I have so many buffs to my party really makes me feel good. I enjoy it so far, and I'm probably going to continue playing it and making it one of my alts on the Western release. The fencing skills feel really fun to use, but most importantly, the usage of my utility skills feel really good on this class and just more impactful than the Bard skills. Also, I do like the fact that the healing from the Paladin is more passive than the Bard's. While Bard's healing comes from a small AoE in a short amount of time, the Paladin heals you every 20 to 30 seconds and has a huge range on it. So even the most small-brained DPS players will definitely grab your heals. You also don't need to care about the positioning of your mates because there's no targeted shielding. Overall, I enjoyed quite a lot, and if you do enjoy supporting, you should definitely give this class a try. One more thing I want to cover really fast is the comparing of Bard versus Paladin. I came across many rumors of one being better, one being more desired and whatnot, but to set the record straight, both are equally good in their own way. Bard has more party survivability tools with more frequent shields, heals and damage reductions, while Paladin offers much more damage output with its two main buffs and debuffs on the target. Both have their more focused playstyles, which also means that both are viable for any content. I personally do not have any preference whatsoever which support I get in my party. If you guys want a more elaborate video on this topic about Bard versus Paladin, please let me know in the comments below. Now let's move on to skills and what they do. Let's start with the must-have. Number one priority is the Guardian Angel. You summon an angel which attacks nearby enemies and does damage. On top of that, you reduce the damage for you and your party members by around 20%. By choosing proper tripods, this skill is also able to buff the damage output of your party members, a certain must-have to support everyone around you. Moving on to Hand of Heaven, a very similar skill that also does damage in AoE around you. Fills up your faith bar, and on top of that, by choosing proper tripods, increases the damage of your party members again. Please note that the buffs from Hand of Heaven and Guardian Angel do not stack, so make sure to spread out the usage for maximum efficiency. Let's go over the first blue skill that is pretty mandatory for your setup, the Sword of Justice. By using Sword of Justice, the Paladin lunges forward and deals damage to the target hit. If the hit does indeed connect, you deal additional damage and leave a trail behind that deals damage over time. Reasons why this skill is so nice is because it actually has decent damage output, has nice stagger to it, and it can also counter-attack guardians. Overall, one of your best blue skills, aka fencing type skills. Next in line is the Dagger Lunge, which is honestly simply a movement tool that allows you to gap close or get out of incoming damage. Depending on the tripod you choose, you can also shield yourself from unavoidable damage by using this skill. Back to utility, another must-have in my opinion is the Shield of Faith, an absolutely amazing skill that shields your allies for 20% of your own max HP. By choosing proper tripods, this already really good skill becomes absolutely a must-have, as it does not only dispel negative effects, but also heals everyone that you shielded for 8% of your max HP. This is your main source of healing for your party. Absolutely amazing. The last skill that is in my opinion mandatory and brings insane utility is the Unbearable Radiance. It's only a small fast cast, doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it puts a stigma debuff on the boss, increasing its damage taken by everyone by 10% for 6 seconds. This skill has a cooldown of around 8 seconds, so you nearly have full uptime of this 10% damage debuff. The skills I listed above are pretty much in my opinion must-haves. I would run them always in any raid content to provide the maximum amount of damage and support to your party. I'll go over a few more skills that you can use or replace as you wish. Possible choices for your last two skill slots would be the Harsh Retribution another fencing skill that brings some damage and stagger into your kit. The Shattering Steel, another pure damage skill with decent damage output. Ruffian's Word, which creates an aura that reduces damage taken significantly while you are casting it inside of that area. And lastly, the Wave of Light, a skill that I use to apply the same debuff as Unbearable Radiance to make sure I can keep 100% uptime on said debuff. It goes without saying that there are other skills that are also useful and fun to use, but those are in my opinion good last choices. Lastly, let's not forget his important ultimate, the Lutheran Cord, which allows the Paladin to shield his party members while doing damage to the target. It also fills up the Faith bar quite significantly. Moving on to recommended engravings and what to focus on. To make it short and sweet, there's 2 engravings I believe to be must-haves, the Healing Faith and the Awakening. That way you are able to spam your ultimate skill more often and obviously heal your allies during your blessed aura. Everything else I recommend comes down to personal preference. Spirit Absorption is great as it speeds up your casting times and allows you to dodge easier. Heavy Armor in general just allows you to tank more damage straight up. And lastly, you can also run the Master Fencer to increase Faith bar generation with your blue skills. Those are pretty much all the engravings I suggest. There's more that you can run, but they're very situational. Lastly, you want to focus on agility to reduce the cooldowns of your skills so you can buff your party more often, and on specialization to increase the effectiveness of your healing and shielding. And with that, we're already at the end of this video. Just one more small thing. You are not a DPS when playing Holy Knight or Paladin. Do not play DPS focused. It is literally griefing unless you are outgearing the content by a huge item level. If you want to play DPS, please just play a proper DPS. Thank you for watching the whole video. If you did like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving a thumbs up. You can also follow me on Twitter, join the Discord where I'm currently making a guild for Lost Ark preparing for the EU release. Lastly, make sure to check out my Twitch channel. Wishing you all a great day wherever you live.